Start the recording.
Okay. So yeah, welcome back to our ongoing quest to build a culture of empathy. It's so great to see all of you over here. This is our third session of Cohort 11, and today we're going to take our practice of facilitation to the next level because today you can request for challenges while you practice your facilitation, right? So challenges which you otherwise might face while doing empathy circles. So before we begin, let me remind you that we are going to record this call for educational and promotional purposes, right? So let's begin with a round of short check-ins, right? So we'd love to hear your updates. Take up to 30 seconds to share, so that we stay within time limits. So you have 30 seconds. You can talk about any questions or comments that you have from last week's session, right? Or how your empathy buddy call went if you did have one last week. Or you can also talk about any if you did facilitate an empathy circle, how did it go, right? Your experience of that, right? So these are 3 points to keep in mind. And what I'll do is I'll call on people so that we speed up the process and you can share your update in 30 seconds, sorry. Yeah. So Jaya, would you like to start?
Okay, thank you, Resha. So I did my empathy circle buddy call. That was really, really amazing. In that little time, whatever I got to know about my buddy, Kesha. So that was amazing. So we connected from the heart. I mean, that was the essence of it. And also in the organization that I work as a consultant, I introduced this thing for the senior management. I set them in pairs and got them to talk to each other. So that process they felt was amazing. They got to know about each other, and they could connect. So that is my experience. I didn't face any challenge as of now, but going forward, maybe the more I practice, there will be challenges. I'm looking forward to the challenges and learning from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya. Mona?
Yeah. Last week it was hard because I was having so many homework that I was late to submit, and so I didn't have like a time to do a facilitated like a circle with my family as usual. But I have my buddy call with Anu, and it was very like very beautiful. We talked for an hour or so with each other, and I really like that. And as usual, I'm really interested in the new session. And one of the challenge in our talk was I was really related to what she was saying, and it was very hard for me to just reply of what she's talking about without interfering with it. But after she finished, I started to have my turn to talk, and so this is one of the challenges that I have to just concentrate on what she was saying, not telling anything to her. This was nice.
All right. Thank you so much, Mona. Larry, let's hear from you.
Well, I'm very excited to be here tonight. I was able to accomplish the buddy call and today a empathy circle with a friend. And this week's buddy call was with Payal, and we had a wonderful conversation. And it was just really beyond expectations of enjoyable, and how much we're on the same page with the empathy circle and all of this work. And we're so optimistic for it. And my empathy circle call today was with a friend, and I really enjoyed the process of empathy circles, watching my own level of trust in my own kindness within, to allow that kindness to come out and play. So I really, really enjoyed the call today. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Faustina?
Hi. So this week has been very different because I've been I've been spending the past few days just recovering from having my wisdom teeth removed. And so usually I have a few calls in the week, but I spent it just resting. And then my kind of short vacation ended when I had my call with Sally, who was my empathy buddy, which I'm still so grateful because for her because we really made it work. I had to reschedule our call a few times, but it was so refreshing not having in many interactions for a week, and then my first big call being an empathy circle. It was just so refreshing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to our call today.
Thank you, Faustina. Payal?
Can I just go last? I'm just trying to set up my laptop.
All right.
Can I? Yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right, Payal. Jen?
Yes, hi everybody. I did have my buddy call this week, and it was interesting to discover, like, or have a new experience of feeling like we're very, very different. You know, like most of my buddy calls and the empathy circle experiences have been where there's lots of resonating, you know, lots of like similar kinds of experiences. And then this time the buddy call, we just, you know, and it was fine, you know, that we could see that there were places where we thought alike, but then there were things in our experience, just because our lives are very different and we're very different people, you know, those differences really came out. So it was really interesting to experience that, you know. So, and it was good. So also I did facilitate a circle, and that was lovely. It was, and we're going to do it every 2 weeks. It's with a group of women. We're all Asian American women. And, you know, as you might know, there's a lot going on right now with that in the news, you know, with that group, with the group of, you know, Asian American people. So, yeah, it was really, it's good. You know, we're going to keep doing that every 2 weeks and support each other and really just have a space to, you know, speak what's on our minds and in our hearts and be listened to. So, yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Jen. Maria?
Oh, I was able to do a buddy call with Kane, and that was really nice. We ended exactly at about a half an hour. We got to share that we had a little bit of a noise issue, but we got through that. And we were able to connect. So I was really happy about that. As far as my empathy circle, that also went really, really well. My family decided we want to meet every week. So they're really enjoying it. And we've decided that we're all going to start inviting one friend at a time into our empathy circle.
All right. It's nice. Anu? Anu? Could you speak next?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm facing some technical issues today, so I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I had a buddy call with Mona, and it was a wonderful experience. We connected at every level. She also gave me a lot of empathy, and also kind of, shared her thoughts, her ideas, and gave me an opportunity to listen to those ideas. So it was a wonderful experience, learned so much. I was also able to facilitate 2 circles in the last week. One was with college students. They are my mentees, and so I proposed that let's have an empathy circle. It was a new experience for them. That's one circle that I facilitated. There is another one that I facilitated with a group of friends. Um, so I have noted down 2 challenges as mentioned by the participants. I think it's also there in the challenges catalog. Um, the first one is that with the students, I'm not sure because they are young and they are hesitant and they are sometimes they can be shy. So one of them asked me that what if I don't want to speak at all? Okay, so it was a circle of 3 of us. Yeah, and so one of them wanted just to be a listener. That's it. Uh, I allowed her to do that because the idea is not to have a contest who speaks how much, but that's my understanding. I would love to seek inputs from everyone here. And the second challenge that I faced with a group of friends, we were 4 of us, is where one in one of the rounds, one of the listeners didn't reflect completely. Again, I found that in the challenges catalog. I found that challenge, that partially reflecting or not reflecting. So it was very minimal reflection that happened. Surprisingly, the speaker was happy. I guess the speaker was happy just taking it off her chest. So it appeared to me as if it doesn't matter to the speaker, as long as she was able to express what she wanted to share with the group. But that's again my interpretation, and I would love to hear more from the group here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anu. Thank you. Can
Apologies for being late. Daylight time saving was affected on my schedule. So I had a buddy call with Maria that was very helpful. Got a lot of things off my chest. I haven't had a circle with my family this week because we have a lot of things on our schedule, but one is scheduled for Sunday afternoon. So I finally got down to translate the how-to instruction into Vietnamese and make the nice video events, which took some time. I had a small empathy circle this morning with friends. It was a really short one, but so I had like someone who was very encouraging and enthusiastic in supporting other people's reflection, and another person was just not having a bright mood. So I guess that would be one of my challenge. How to navigate like such differences in the mood of the participants. Glad to be here.
thank you. Sally?
Oh, well, Faustina wasn't able to do the actual thing until later this week. So I worked with Larry, who was my previous buddy, and so we did a couple of different things, including just practice the introduction of being the facilitator and studying the core values. And then on my own, I read through all the things that can go wrong in an empathy circle. And it just really seemed familiar to things I have done throughout the whole time. But anyway, then I had a wonderful meeting with Faustina, and then we got together finally and did some facilitation and empathy circles and caught up with it. So.
All right, thank you, Sally. Rita, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. This week I kind of do like different types of processing. Like I had a session with a friend who did some reflective listening for me, which was really just validating, I guess, in terms of clarifying where I'm at and how to reframe my this sort of like internal training that I feel like I'm doing. I often want to be like at the end, or like I want to be like a great facilitator that's like confident all the time, you know, but I have a lot of like inner critics that speak sometimes. And so it was just kind of validating to land in the position where I accept myself as like someone that's in training, you know, like almost like doing ninja training, you know, like heart warrior ninja training. So I felt like I connected with that sort of word and concept in my empathy body call, which was really nice. And also I'm setting up to facilitate like a 9-month empathy cafe, a monthly empathy cafe on deep adaptation. So just kind of like asking questions like, how do I speak the language of my audience, and how do I like make it more accessible for people that, you know, don't know what an empathy cafe is, don't know what deep adaptation is, and just make it completely accessible and inspiring. So yeah, those are some of my challenges this week.
Thank you, Rita. Edwin?
Yeah, I had a empathy buddy call with one of the other trainers. So I was just feeling quite tired. This was yesterday. And so we had it on the phone, and I went over to my sofa over here, just laid down on the sofa and just and usually I wanted, you know, we have half an hour, but I want to be fair, right? 15 for him, 15 for me. He said, no, it's all for you. So I got the full, you know, 30 minutes plus, just laid back and just spoke and got empathic listening. It was just really great. It was very energizing and relaxing. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Edwin. So for me, I did not have any empathy buddy calls last week. I could not facilitate, or I did not really facilitate an empathy circle either, but then I did have conversations with a couple of people from previous cohorts. And I'm also looking to maybe organize, a bi-weekly, regular empathy cafe. So working on that for the future. So that's how my week went. So we have Payal, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, thank you. So I had my buddy call with Larry, and that was really beautiful. So glad that we could, have that conversation. And there was a lot of trial and error with our time zone that we worked on, but I'm glad we could make it. I did have a question which showed up for me when I was doing my buddy call with Larry, and I have put that on the form. I'm hoping to get some perspectives on that. And I'm really excited that I'm getting into the groove of thinking of empathy in various spaces. So that's really where I am.
Okay. All right. Lizzie has joined. So Lizzie, would you like to tell us how your week went?
Oh, thanks. Just hello, everybody. And I wasn't there last week because of work commitments, but so I'm a little bit out of the loop with where you're up to. Yeah. But we had an empathy circle last night, and the topic was, who am I when I find my voice? And it was incredibly moving topic, you know. Yeah. But thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Lizzie. So with that, I think we've all checked in, and so next, I think Rita would be addressing some session feedback, and possibly, if there's time, you could also address Anu's two challenges that she had mentioned, and maybe the question that Payal had as well. So yeah, over to you.
Thanks, Rasha. My microphone is still a bit low, so if you're having trouble hearing me, just turn up the volume on your end now. Sorry, I haven't been able to fix that. I'm still speaking through the microphone in my computer, so hopefully you can hear me and I'll project my voice. So yeah, there were quite a few questions this week. And so I've included and added them mostly under the facilitator section in the challenges document. I won't be able to cover all of them, but I'll definitely I picked the ones that are like the most important, and we'll have a bit of extra time for that now. So yeah, first of all, Anu, when you said about if someone doesn't want to speak in the circle, yeah, you did the right thing. You know, if usually there's a bit more of a buffer if someone has agreed to come to a circle, then you know, they've kind of agreed to take part in the process, but they also might not exactly know what they're coming for. So for people that are introverts or shyer, you know, even on Zoom, they might be like, oh, I really just want to listen. Is that okay? I just want to be a silent listener. And to make them most comfortable, just, you know, even if it's just the two of you reflecting, do a round of that, you know, with another person, and maybe in the next round you can invite them in to speak, because yeah, going at the pace of the participants is most important. And you know, that can be done online as well. You know, usually we do want to include everybody, but if someone's really like, I'm very nervous about this, it's like, that's okay, you know. And as long as online it's kind of easier, if they still have their video and on, so we can at least see that they're there and you know, like listening. Yeah, so that's what I would say to that. And you can also ask your facilitator a bit more if you have someone different. And the other question was about the listener reflecting minimally. Yeah, again, as you said, it's noted in the challenges document. It's good as a facilitator to, yeah, just kind of make a mental note of that and not necessarily like jump in straight away. Sometimes that ends up sorting itself out over the several rounds that you model and speak and listen and things like that. Yeah, if it's really up to the speaker to get comfortable to actually say that they've felt heard. And even though it's not really up to the facilitator to decide whether the, you know, listener has reflected enough. Yeah, so but if you're seeing that it's like actually a big gap or something, then maybe between rounds you can just kind of remind people that you know, if they really don't feel that the listener has reflected all the things that are important for them, yeah, just to kind of, you know, reiterate what is important. And you can also model that when you're a speaker as the, yeah, facilitator modeling the speaker role. You can, you know, correct your listener and say, actually, this is more what I meant, and just keep going through those awkward moments so that all your other participants kind of go, oh, I'm also allowed to do that. So yeah, does that make sense for those two questions?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thanks, Rita.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So there are a few other questions like, yeah, can the active listener reflect on the speaker when it's their turn to speak? So it's like, you know, you've been an active listener just now, and now it's your turn to speak, or, you know, whether you're, so this is also for like one of your participants, not just you as a facilitator. So yeah, you can totally just comment on how whatever has been shared in the circle has affected you, you know, because now when that person is in the speaker role, yeah, they can really just talk about like what's alive in them in that moment, and that will be a part of like what has already been said in the circle. Does that make sense? It's a little bit meta when you're kind of like outside, but yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's also like sort of deepens the conversation if you're like, oh, what Lizzie said in the circle like really touched me, and this is what it made me think about, or made me remember this, and this is what's important to me right now, so that's totally relevant, and it's sort of like building on the conversation. So yeah, great. Okay, I just wanted to say a little thing about one comment that was made. Yeah, a suggestion. I'm not sure if it was relating to the training or the empathy circle, circles themselves, like the length of time. Some people think that it should be shorter. The training is just kind of this length so that we can, the 2.5 hours, we know that it's a commitment, but that's kind of what we ask from people that are training to be facilitators. But in terms of the empathy circle that you facilitate, their length, we still have been keeping to the format of having an hour and a half for an empathy circle. And if you come across an audience like teachers or, I don't know, people that just feel really busy and that's not an option for them, like we've also sort of experimented with like, doing a half an hour empathy circle. Like I did one the other day online with, just a group of people that I'm doing a course with. And I split them up into groups of 3. So smaller groups, shorter amount of time to speak. So, the facilitator can invite people to speak for 3 to 4 minutes instead of 5. So people can still go through 2 rounds of empathic listening. And, it could be, that's kind of the small, usually we say the smallest group is 4 in a circle. So if you have less time, just make your groups, your circles smaller, as well as the amount of time that people have. So they get to do 2 rounds. But really it's about like, it's more useful for people to go deeper in the circle. So if you can do at least 2 rounds, that's good, whether it's like, 30 minutes, an hour, or an hour and a half. Yeah, that's the purpose that we're deepening, because people don't always get the method after just 1 round. It's something sort of clicks after the second round. Yeah, Edwin, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, I just really spot on. It's ideally 3 rounds just to go deeper. The first, for new people, the first round or 2, you're still nervous, getting familiar with the practice. So having the 3rd round to go deeper, but just kind of fill the space as best you can.
Yeah.
Like you're saying.
Okay, great. Okay, so now there's a couple of pointy end questions, which have different, I'm just going to see. Okay, maybe I'll speak to your question, Payal, which was about like, yeah, just how do we apply this empathic listening in real life? For example, when we're in a good mood, empathy might be easier, but when emotions get intense, like anger, hurt, fear, we're sort of not as adaptable to switch over to empathy. And that might come up in the circle if someone's got a charged emotion, or it might come up in real life if you're obviously just having a one-on-one chat with someone and you're like, oh, I really want to do empathic listening, but I'm feeling triggered or activated right now. So how do we deal with that? So again, I posted a lengthy response to this in the challenges document. First of all, there's a good video. There's several hundreds out there, but one I posted was about trauma and the brain. So it's really good to know about what happens to our brain when when we get, it doesn't have to be traumatic, but even when we get triggered, basically. So there's three main parts of the brain. I'll explain them quickly. So this is the amygdala. There's the amygdala is about like the fight or flight response. It's like the oldest part of our brain. It's the reptilian part of the brain. This is the limbic system, where we, you know, feel emotions and we're still able to express, and, you know, we get angry, and this is where all our charged emotions come from. Then there's the neocortex, which is the logical thinking part of our brain, which is where we're able to learn when, you know, that's all connected. So what happens when we feel threatened, whether it's a trauma response or whether it's just like activating something from our childhood that is in the subconscious, is that the neocortex flips off. It stops, it disengages in a way. And so we're left with the limbic, and sometimes the limbic system switches off, and then we're just left with like, okay, I got to fight or flight or freeze, you know? And so it's just kind of good. Check out that video. It gives it more detailed explanation. It's just kind of good to know when that happens to us or when that's happening in somebody else. And the reason why we, you know, do training in this empathic work is so that we can get this deeper into our subconscious, basically. So just by practicing this method of active listening, it's like when we're in a triggered state, if we've kind of embedded this skill deeper into our subconscious body and mind, then we're more able to access it. You know, even if you're like, I'm feeling angry and triggered, a part of you will sort of remember that you have this skill and it's an optional pathway. Yeah, I can say so much more about that, and there's obviously lots of, you know, courses and information out there, and lots of ways of changing your subconscious patterning, and I've listed that in the challenges document as well. And Sally, the link is also in the challenges document. So those were probably the most important questions. I want to give a lot more time so you can practice the challenges. And yeah, we'll post the link for the challenges document in here again at the end during our debrief. But Edwin has also sent it around in the emails. And yeah, we'll just get into some breakout rooms in a minute. But the basic formula, if a challenge comes up, Lou kind of made this up. I'm going to post it into the chat. So, you know, when a challenge comes up in your group, in your empathy circle, what to look for is you just name kind of what's happening. You give empathy to that person and you invite them to do what you want them to do. So, you know, instead of, I guess, saying, oh, you know, like, don't reflect like that. Maybe it's better at the moment if we, you know, just focus on what the speaker is saying. Just do that second part. It's like, you know, acknowledge that, you know, I acknowledge your curiosity. And, you know, I hear that you're very passionate about this. Love to hear from you. And right now, I'm just wondering if you can spend time just reflecting and focusing and companioning what the speaker has told you. So we're really focusing on just like guiding, you know, our participants in the direction that we want them to go, which is focusing on the empathy method. Edwin, did you want to add anything more to that?
No, we probably should move on to
Yes.
getting into the groups, kind of get the experience. We're sort of, yeah, we need to move pretty quickly so we have time for everyone.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I'll hand back to Russia, and if you have anything further before we go out to breakout groups. You're unmuted.
You're muted.
Muted, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so I'll give you a quick idea of what we'll be doing in the breakout rooms. So each of you, like before, will get around 20 minutes to practice facilitation. So we can begin with, while you facilitate, you can begin with the how-to, or an introduction to what empathy circles is, like you did last time. In addition, you can also ask for a challenge if you are up for it, right? So the challenge will be given to you only by the trainer, right, in the breakout room. You can ask for a challenge if you preferred a difficulty level. You can ask for a low difficulty challenge, or a medium, or a high, or even no challenge at all. So it's completely up to you. Today in the breakout rooms, while you facilitate, you also get to choose your topic, right? So while you facilitate, you can say what the topic is going to be. So that's something else. So some of the challenges, it could, that you might, be given if you ask for it, would be like if the listener is speaking too much or too less, after listening to the speaker, or the listener is just asking too many questions, while they're not supposed to. Instead, they're just supposed to reflect. Could be when speaker is not pausing, or is going beyond time, or silent listeners interrupting, walking around, or even participants objecting to the process. So different sorts of challenges are there which you can ask for, right? So yeah, so I think with that, if there are no questions, I think we can go to the breakout rooms and take it from there.
Yeah, you may want to do 3-minute turns, because you'll just because there's going to be a very short amount of time. And there'll be 3 groups. So Lizzie will have one, Rasha will have one, and Rita will have one. We have, in terms of the amount of participants, there's going to be 4 participants in your group, Rita. So you're going to have to sort of adjust the times according, and I'll sit in your group, Rasha. So I'm just gonna set that up, and we'll actually stay here in this group. So here we go. See you in the groups. And I'll give a 10-minute notice before that we close. So we'll have an hour and a half. Less than an hour and a half, actually.
Okay, hi. All right, Jen, Faustina, Maria. So let's get started. So I think we have around 20 minutes each, maybe less than, let's say around 18 minutes each, right? I'll time you, and what you can do is you can facilitate, and like we discussed, you begin with giving a how-to, or like what an empathy circle is. You can begin with introducing, like make the introduction very short, maybe, so that you can have more time with the practice. So in around 3 minutes or so, try to do the introduction. Post which, then you can ask, then you can give a topic, right, for the discussion, and then you can start with the facilitation, right? So yeah, who would like to begin? So if any of you went last the previous time, then you can go first this time, because sometimes when you're the last person, you may not get enough time. So I would suggest that somebody who went last the previous time can start off, or if you'd like me to just call out, we can do that as well. So yeah, anyone would like to volunteer to start with the facilitation? Okay, Maria, would you like to?
Would you
go,
mind?
or?
Would it be okay if I go later? I seem to be going first every time. So.
Oh, all right. Okay. And Faustina, would you like to go?
Sure. All right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, just a quick disclaimer. Just if you at any point can't understand me, I'm just having a little difficulty speaking. So just, yeah, you can tell me when. Okay. So welcome everyone. Yeah.
Would you like some level of difficulty? I mean, challenges while you facilitate?
Maybe for this week, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah, because yeah.
Okay. Get
Hello.
started.
Yeah, hello everyone. So today we'll be having our empathy circle. So the empathy circle is really a space for us to share and listen to each other and be heard. So in the empathy circle, there are four main roles. Um, uh, so first we have the speaker, and the speaker, during their turn, they get to share about the given topic, and so they can pause now and then to give time for the active listener to reflect back what is being said. And after their turn, the speaker may affirm the listener by saying, "Yes, I have been heard." Um, the second role is the active listener, and their job is to really listen to the speaker and now and then reflect what is being shared with them. So to reflect means to either use the same phrases that the speaker has used, like parroting, or really you can just rephrase and get sort of the essence of what is being shared. And as the active listener, yeah, you're free to actually ask the speaker maybe to pause if you feel like they're going too fast or they're sharing too much for you to reflect. Um, yes, and so as a listener, your job really is to reflect back and not give too much of your own input or maybe ask questions. Um, so the third is the silent listener, which is everyone else's job is to just observe and kind of watch whatever's unfolding there. And the last role is the facilitator, which is my role for today, to guide everyone through the process and also to keep the time. So am I correct? 3 minutes? Um, so yeah, we have 3 minutes for each speaker's turn. Um, when the time is up, I'll just raise my phone and maybe you can acknowledge that. And if someone is still speaking when the time is up, feel free to just wrap it up so we don't interrupt the flow. The topic, yeah, our topic for today can just be maybe an experience you had in the week, that the most memorable experience you had in the week. I would like to hear, what moment or conversation, it can be anything, that really stuck with you. So do you have any questions? No? Okay. Would anyone like to go first? Or I can just pick some. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is the speaker. After the speaker's turn, the active listener then becomes the speaker, and they get to pick their active listener. That's how we'll go about. And let's just keep in mind that everyone should be able to, have their turn to share. So who would like to start? Rasha? Oh, Jen? Jen? Okay. And
Sure.
who would you like to listen to you?
Maria, would you be the active listener?
Sure, I'd love to.
Thank you. So a memorable experience of this week. It's kind of nice because I've had a lot of memorable experiences this week. But there's one that I really, really enjoy and that I'd like to talk about now is I was making my daughter's lunch, and so I had cleaned out her lunch bag. So I take her to a pod. She's in kindergarten. I take her to a learning pod, and so I was making her lunch and cleaned out her lunch bag, and there was all these papers in there, and things, and so I took them out, put them on the counter, made the lunch, got her all ready, and we went to school. I brought her, and then when I came home, I thought, okay, I'm just going to look through all these papers. What is all this? there was a note in there that was handwritten by another kid. So it must have been one of her kindergartner friends. And the note said, Ava, I like you because you always give love. And it was just the cutest thing, you know, and it was written, you know, like spelled incorrectly and everything. Like she was obviously like sounding out the words, and it just was really sweet, and it just warmed my heart. And I just thought, oh my goodness, you know, that is really something. You know, I've never seen a note like that with 5-year-olds, you know, or maybe ever. um, no, I think our friend, yeah, no, I have friends that send sweet notes, but like that, like straightforward, just sweetness like that was nice to see. I felt a really like warm feeling from
So
that.
I'm hearing that you had a memorable moment this week, and it was in regards to your kindergarten daughter, Ava. She goes to a learning pod, and so she takes home lunches with her. And as you were cleaning out her lunch bag, you found pieces of paper. And after removing them, and you went back to them later to take a look at it. And I'm hearing that you had this really amazing experience of warmth and love about a letter that she got from one of her friends in kindergarten, and really a note coming from the heart about how she's giving in her love.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I just thought, gosh, if we could all just be that way, you know, all the time, how nice that would be.
Yeah, I'm hearing that it was really kind of a impactful, warm experience for you, and how wonderful it would be if we could all be in that space and that feeling.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. That's it. I feel good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. Rasha, would you mind being the listener?
Sure, I'd love to.
So in thinking about memorable moments, it's been kind of an interesting period for us. Normally our weather starts to get warm in Hawaii right about now, but it's been a lot of rain. So on top of sort of the COVID limitations and really, really wet, flooding, rainy weather, we've been in the house a lot. And so the empathy circle we do in the house, I almost felt a little bit like, well, we're sort of going to run out of things to talk about. But then, of course, I met with my family, and of course, my 16-year-old son had a comment which was really kind of an eye-opener for me, because I know he's a really emotionally intelligent child, but and in fact, I was kind of blown away that he was the best listener out of all of us. And so that was pleasantly surprising. But on top of that, he made a comment he shared in our circle that he said he feels really fortunate that he has his mom listens to him and gives him the opportunity to be open. But he didn't realize how much impact it had for him to actually be the speaker.
Okay. All right. Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that so it's supposed to be warm over there in Hawaii, but it's still very rainy. The weather is very rainy. You've been spending a lot of time in the house, and so and you've also been hosting or empathy circles at home. right? And one of the things that stood out for you is, an eye-opening comment from your 16-year-old son. What he said, you've felt that he has very good EI, like, his EQ,
Mhm.
and then you also felt that he was the best listener, right? And his comment, that he feels he's very fortunate that he has a mom who listens to him, right? Was something that stood out for you.
Yes. So I'm really enjoying sharing with my family, and they're starting to find that maybe including other people, their friends, into sort of our circle where it's where we're familiar, and it might be an ideal situation to introduce the concept.
All right, all right. So what I hear you say is that your family, they're enjoying having the empathy circles, and they are even interested in probably including others outside of the family, like friends, in the circle, which would be an ideal situation.
Mhm. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Faustina, would you be my?
Sure, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so a memorable experience last week. So yesterday I met up with two friends after, I think, nearly 2 years. So that was very refreshing, and because of COVID, I've been at home mostly, and it was really nice to step out of home, go to this really nice cafe which was by a river, and then just enjoy the aesthetics and just talk, right? And yeah, so that was a very memorable and very beautiful experience for me.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you had a very memorable experience. It was very a refreshing experience as well because you met up with two friends that you haven't seen in a while, and also you haven't been outside of your house much because of the current situation, and so you got to go out with them and spend time in this cafe by the river. I'm hearing that correctly? Yeah.
Right. Yes. So that was one experience, and other than that, yeah, I've as part of my work, I've been having a workshop with a small group of around of 5 people on empathy. And so, because it's a very small group, and the session went on for a really long time, everybody had a lot to say. And these were people from 4 different corners of the world, right, outside of me. But it struck me, the stories that they were sharing, despite everyone being from different parts of the world, um, how 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 similar we are all in a lot of respects, right, when it comes to our personal challenges, or the kind of problems we face in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, that realization and that discussion was very beautiful as well.
Okay, so you had another beautiful experience with your work, where you have a workshop with 5 people. So it's an intimate workshop. You had all these people from different parts of the world, and yet with them being from such different places, you actually realized that what they were sharing were similar in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I feel very heard. I'm guessing I'm almost out of time. So yeah, we are reaching the end of time. So yeah, I feel very heard. Thank you, Faustina.
Thank you. Um, Edwin, would you be my listener?
Listening.
Yeah. Okay. So my week's been pretty dull with me just being in bed, but a really memorable experience I had was last Sunday. I actually met up with some of my teammates from our youth-led organization, and we've been communicating mostly online for the past few months, and it was just so odd actually just to see them in front of me.
Yeah, so you've been haven't been getting out. You've just been in bed with your health the last several days, but you did get out before and met with some of your youth group, and it was just so strange sort of meeting them, because you've been meeting online. So meeting in person was strange, felt strange.
Yeah. And we had this just beautiful day of just this kind of long continuous conversation. Like we went to different cafes and restaurants, and yet we had this just long kind of cycle of talking about so many concepts like thinking, identity, um, just anything. And it all started with someone asking what we should talk about. And because they had picked up a flower from the ground and they said, let's start with this flower. And everything we talked about that day kind of just started at that one point, which is just so fun to look back at.
So it's fun to look back at how the conversation just evolved and developed, starting with talking about a flower, and it just one topic after the other came out, and it was just a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah. And one of the topics we got to talk about was empathy, actually. I forgot how we got there. No, I think it was talking about what makes us all individual, or whether or not we're all individuals, that kind of conversation. And so we got to talking about empathy, and I just had this moment where it just felt satisfying to have this aspect of my life connect to that aspect of my life, in the sense that the two main things happening with me right now is this training and my work with the youth group. And I've been talking about empathy with them, but to just have this organic um just merging, just encounter of these two important aspects of my life at the moment, just very satisfying. Yeah.
So you had talked about empathy with that group, but somehow the topic came around organically to the topic of empathy, and this group, as well as this training, are two important things in your life, and they merged, and it was just so satisfying that they came together.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the time. Thank you,
Okay.
Edwin. I feel very heard.
Okay.
With that, I think it's about 18 minutes. Okay. So let's listen to Maria, Jen, Edwin, if you would like to join as well, about how, Faustina's facilitation went. But before that, Faustina, let's hear your thoughts. How do you think you did?
One thing I was focusing on actually the whole time was just being calm, because last time I was all over the place. I was just thinking of so many things. And one of the feedback actually was just it reflected through the screen that I was a bit, nervous, and I tried to be a little bit more calm, and eventually, in the process, it stops being so anxious for me, because I do get to listen to what everyone has to say. It calms me down when people start talking, and just the process, it's a process that unfolds by itself. So that was calming. Yeah, I think it did okay. Yeah, I'm happy with how I did.
All right. Awesome. So, Jen, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I thought Faustina did a really nice job. And I was in her group last time, and yeah, she was a little nervous. And this time, definitely, I noticed that the calmness. So I feel like, yeah, it was just nice to witness that, just the growth there or something. And maybe the few days in the bed was a good thing for you to really rest. So yeah, good job. And I felt like, yeah, your explanations were very clear.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Maria?
I thought you did wonderful. your explanations, and you were really calm, and that kind of set the tone for us to get started. And I think that was great.
All right. Edwin, comments?
Yeah, I felt that it was very sort of relaxed, and there seemed to be, it was very clear. There was like a sort of a deep sense of understanding the underlying concepts, like, oh, she really gets it, sort of like, and so it felt sort of grounding for me. There was at the beginning, in terms of, it depends on how much the participants have, if they've done the empathy circle. Like if we were all new participants, you would want to be the first participant, so you could model the listening. So because if nobody's done it before, if everybody's familiar with it, then you wouldn't need to, but that would be the one thing. That was the only thing I was thinking of. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think from me, like everybody else, I think you did a fabulous job, because I think even with the how-to or the introduction, I think you covered all the major points. I didn't, I was looking out to see whether you'd miss anything, but you did cover everything, right? And the one thing you missed, you kind of added it before you got started with the facilitation. So I think a wonderful job there. And I loved how you began with talking about the objective of an empathy circle, where it's for everybody to feel heard, and mentioning that is always the best way to start. So I like that. And I also like the fact that you, towards the end, also asked everybody whether they have any questions before you started off. So yeah, so good job. I think it was very well done. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we can move on to the next person. So Jen, would you like to go next?
Okay, sure, I'll go next.
All right. Before you start off, like, would you like challenge?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, maybe like a nothing too extreme.
It's a low, medium, difficult, like where would you want it?
I mean, I guess maybe a medium challenge. Yeah.
All right. All right. Sure. Okay. You can start it, yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Empathy Circle. It's really nice to see you all here. The Empathy Circle is really about building, a culture of empathy and, meaning, a space to really express yourself and be heard. And yeah, so in the basic Empathy Circle, we take turns speaking and listening. And so in the first, for the first person who speaks, they will choose a listener who will active listen and reflect back what they've heard. The active listener really just reflects back and says the essence or paraphrases what the speaker has said and what they're hearing the speaker say, rather than adding anything extra. No need to add your opinions or anything like that, but just you're reflecting back what you hear from the speaker. And so we'll take turns like that. And once that turn is done, then the active listener will become the speaker and choose the listener, and so on. One of the things that's helpful when you're the speaker is to, speak in a way, like maybe pause, so that, you're not speaking too much at one time, so that the active listener can paraphrase and say back what they've heard. Yeah, and so I'm thinking that the topic for today would be, and I got this topic from somebody else that used this recently. Who are you when you really find your voice? So that will be the topic for today. And let me see if I make sure that I've covered everything. you know, when you are the silent listener, you're really just there listening and being present, and just witnessing, you know, what's happening with the speaker and the active listener. And each of us will go ahead and hold the space, you know, hold the container, and try to follow the steps as much as possible. So I will be timing, and we'll have about 3 minutes. And I'll help to kind of guide if we seem to be going off the process. And the others can maybe alert, you know, like a finger up or something if somehow I am missing to, you know, in the guidance. So we'll all be here together, you know, with the process. And so do you have any questions about how we'll do this? Okay, great. So do we have a volunteer to go first? Okay, so I will choose a speaker. Rasha, would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay.
Great. And
so, Faustina, would you like to be my listener? Okay.
Sure.
All right. So, Jen, could you repeat the topic, please?
yes, so the topic is, who are you when you really find your voice? And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, let me just take a few seconds to think over this. Okay, so I'm kind of having trouble figuring out what to say.
I would just add also, Rasha, if that, and to the whole group, that if the topic isn't quite speaking to you, you can speak to whatever is on your mind, or your heart, or, you know, whatever is alive for you.
All right. So right now what I'm thinking is why this topic doesn't really, like, you know, speak to me. So yeah. Could you explain what that means? Like, who are you when you really find your voice?
I think that, to me, the finding your voice, sometimes there can be, you know, a thread of, like a deep truth that's inside of you that really wants to be expressed. And so, you know, like looking for that deeper truth that speaks to who you really are.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay, I'm having trouble, so maybe I'll just talk about something else. Yeah, it's morning over here, and I'm kind of a little, you know, crazy in the head. Yeah, and yeah, because it's morning, I guess I'm just not prepared enough to, you know, take part in an empathy circle. Yeah, Faustina, could you just reflect that back to me?
Sure. Yeah. So you're having a bit of trouble connecting with the topic, and so it's still morning or a bit early where you are, and so you're not as awake really yet, and you don't really feel ready to share as much. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I feel hurt. I think I don't want to speak anymore. Like, as I'm done for now. So yeah. So thank you.
Okay. And then I get to pick. Okay, um, Jen, would you be my listener?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So, why? I think this question is a bit daunting for me. Um, because it's a similar question. I feel like that I've encountered just because I'm at the stage where most of my friends are going to college. And so adults are like asking me what I'm striving towards. And I think your question, how it resonates with me is the person I want to be. Because I don't think I found my voice yet. But I would like to share a bit about who that person maybe I think is, which
Yeah.
is something. Yeah.
Yeah. I reflect that back. Now.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
I hear you saying that the topic of finding your voice and who you are is daunting, and it's been something that's kind of been on your mind anyway, and your class, like your classmates, they're in college, and you're wondering what it is that you want to do, and you feel you haven't found your voice yet.
Yeah. I think I just finding my voice for me would really being able to feel sure enough about myself to be able to share that sense of self to the world and to have that idea of who I am in whatever I do. And so I guess I just when I found my voice, because I feel like there are moments when I do feel like I have found my voice, and that person who has found their voice would be sure, just an amount, there just would be an amount of sureness within them, within myself, um in knowing that with every decision I make, it's my decision, just having that confidence that it may not be the right decision, but it's mine. And um yeah, sure, a sure person I think is someone would be that, and a person willing to learn, just a person who is open to listening and learning from everyone. Because I feel like when I'm sure enough about myself, then I'm open to input from other people, and that I have a stable sense enough of self that I can take things in and know when something is right for me or when it's not. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, so you are really feeling that sureness is the kind of evidence that you really know who you are, and that yeah, you are looking for that kind of sureness. Yeah, and that you really are kind of searching for that, and getting yourself ready. I hear that you're getting yourself ready for that and being open, yeah,
Yeah.
to be experiencing yourself that way.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard.
Wonderful. Thank you. Um, so, okay. Um, Edwin, would you listen for me, please?
Listening.
Thank you. Let me do the timer. Okay. Um, yeah, when I heard somebody say this topic, it piqued my interest, because, you know, I think the question, who am I, is very important to me. It's like been a very yeah, it's been a very central kind of question in my mind, like, who am I and why am I here? And feeling as if, it has to do with my life's purpose, really. And so I think that I'm a little distracted right now because Rasha left and she's on the phone. Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you're a little distracted, but this was a very meaningful topic for you because you really thinking a lot about this topic of who, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I yeah, sorry, I got really distracted. Yeah, it's okay. Thanks, Russia. Yeah, we want to try as much as the facilitator, I'm speaking, we want to try to stay, in the process together. So anyway,
Yes, I'm hearing you got like really distracted. You're feeling a little, maybe even a little flustered.
Yep. Thank you. But so yeah, who am I when I find my voice? I mean, I feel like it's really good to be able to express in the moment what's happening, for me. I think that in the past, I've had a lot of like difficult experiences in the past and maybe traumatic experiences in the past. And, it's to the point, as I've been on my journey and my healing process, it's been really important for me to begin to shed the layer of like trauma, like there's something wrong, because it's like I can't take away what has happened. I can't ignore what has happened in the past. I know that I bring that with me, but it isn't the thing that I want to lead with. And so I think that finding my voice and the truth of that, of who I actually am, if I'm not my trauma, if I'm not my past experiences, who actually am I? And so that's
okay, so there's you have some trauma and you don't want to sort of lead with that trauma when you're sort of relating with people. You want to share where you are in the moment. And so it sounds like you're sort of trying to speak from where you are in the moment and get past that trauma.
Yep. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. Maria, can I speak to you?
Yes.
What came up for me when I first heard that is I had done an exercise once called singing Gestalt, which is you just sing whatever comes to your mind, and I felt like, wow, I'm really on the spot, but I just stepped into it and sort of belted it out, and I was like totally at this level of tension and fear, but I just kept going with that, kind of being in the present, and it was just very energizing.
Wow. So I'm hearing that when you heard the topic, it made you think about a time you participated in this singing Gestalt and you felt a certain level of anxiety, but you just kind of let it go and belt it out in song. And it was just a wonderful opening.
Yeah, and somebody else said, that's the best I've heard of somebody doing it for the first time. They said, you sound like Pavarotti. It's like, usually I'm kind of keep everything sort of under control, and this was just like totally letting it out and, just kind of like Pavarotti, the fullness of, my inner core kind of spreading out. So it was terrifying. It was terrifying, but it was just, yeah, it was very enjoyable too.
It sounds like it was a really invigorating experience that even one of the spectators or people listening commented it was the best of someone doing it for the first time. Second to Pavarotti.
Better than Pavarotti.
Better than Pavarotti.
But what it was being sort of at the edge of my, you know, it was like looking into the void and just singing, not knowing what was going to come out of it, just improvising, kind of it, and being totally terrified at the same time, but being at the edge. So yeah, it was very energizing. Yeah.
So an experience where you felt like you were at the edge, but things that you didn't really even know would come showed up, and you're letting go and singing.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
If I may ask, where were you having this?
Oh, I was at Esalen. You know, I don't know if you ever heard of Esalen. It's a very famous place here in California where where, you know, it's a retreat center. It was like, comes from the 60s, and all the big, you know, psychology people and everything were there at Esalen. And I lived there for a year. And it's like this beautiful place. They got these big hot tubs, and you sit in these. Are you familiar with it, Rasha? Have you heard about it? Oh, you got to look it up. Look it up on Google. Yeah, look up Esalen Hot Springs. I actually have some videos there of Esalen. Yeah.
So Edwin, I'm hearing that you were in Esalen when you experienced this, and maybe we can all look it up on a map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, with that, we are time up. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Jen. I'm kind of trying really hard to kind of, you know, give you a challenge. And so I was kind of feeling bad as well, because I knew I could see how distracted you were getting. But before we get into that, Jen, I'd like to hear from you. How do you think it went?
Oh my gosh, I felt really nervous. Yeah, like more nervous than the first time. And I don't know if it's because Edwin, because you were here, or I don't know, you know, but I felt super nervous. But other than that, I mean, I feel like you know, even with that, I did okay. You know, like I think it went fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. So yeah, Faustina, any comments?
Yeah, that was interesting. At some points, I was nervous for Jen. Like, but I think the timing was so interesting because it was the kind of the main distraction part. The challenge came when she was the one sharing. And so I kind of saw that struggle of she's distracted as a speaker, but also as a facilitator. And so I was kind of, you know, trying to observe how she would step in to the role of facilitator. And she did, which I found so interesting, good. I don't know how else to phrase it, but you know, when you did say that you were speaking as a facilitator, I think that really helped us go back into this space. And another thing was I really liked which at the beginning how you talked about it as a space, and that we all had an active role in creating that space, and it really brought me into that mindset. So yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
Awesome. What do you have to say?
Did you call on someone? Oh.
I thought it was really interesting because, to be honest, as much as I wanted to connect, and I knew, although I knew you were doing it intentionally, even then, I really can't recall what anything that Faustina or Jen said. Just the level of distraction. I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful in not hearing you, but just that really how much of a distraction it is to have someone, not be on the same page.
Yeah. Thank you, Maria. And anything to talk about, like Jen's facilitation, comments, suggestions?
I commend you for keeping it together.
Thank you.
that did get, it was a pretty nice real life process that I think you navigated.
Thank you, Maria. Edwin?
Yeah, the presentation was very clear. It has a sort of a real detail, as a facilitator experience, sort of a feel to it. So I felt pretty grounded and clear. There was, I think there was, I'm not quite sure when it happened the first time, but you went into sort of an explanation mode. I think Rasha was speaking to Faustina or where it was. And instead of just saying, oh, could you just reflect what you heard Rasha say, you went into sort of an explanation mode, trying to explain. Like I might have just said, oh, Faustina, can you just reflect back what you heard Rasha say, and keep it in the reflective mode instead of getting too much in the descriptive mode where you're describing. And then also, I was also playing along with Rasha with that part about Esalen, right? So I was saying, oh, I just got into a discussion. So we were sort of breaking the form there. And you could have maybe brought it back, say, oh, Rasha, we want to hear what you have to say, but let's just have Edwin, let's just have Maria reflect back what she's heard so far. You can sort of, maybe it sort of cleaned itself up, because Maria did a really good job of just stepping in and reflecting. She kind of brought it back into the process. So she kind of cleaned it up for you in that sense, that brought it back into the process. So those are just some little things that you got to be careful that somebody kind of hijacks it. Like Rasha was she was doing a good job of the moderate challenges.
Yeah.
So yeah, from me, it was really difficult because I could see it on your face, Jen. Actually, it was very visible how flustered you were getting because of the things that I was doing here. And I think right from the start, I was acting very bored. Like, I didn't really I was not really in the same space. And so this is one thing, right? If in a group, one person really shows disinterest, then that kind of has an impact on the entire group and the dynamics of that whole group, right? I mean, the energy kind of goes down even if one person, has that. So what I felt is at the beginning, I think you did good with the introduction. Very good beginning. You gave a clear explanation as to the objective, and like somebody else said, you also added something like from your end, which kind of was very which came naturally to you. You were very, very yourself, I would say, very Jen, like when you were talking. So that helps. That really helps people connect to you. I wish even the introduction, you had kept it a little more structured, because I felt there were things that you forget, and then you kind of get back to the point. I think even Faustina, one point which you later on said, I feel when everything is like in a very structured manner, it would be really easy for those who are listening to kind of keep that in mind. So that's one thing. And yeah, other than that, good job on just keeping it together, because I get really flustered as well. I mean, it's very difficult for me when somebody is not listening, and I'm constantly worried, okay, am I doing something wrong? Like, so you really handle that very well. And I'm glad at one point you did say, I'm getting very distracted, and Rasha, so you kind of spoke to me about it, and so that kind of so I made an effort to stop and try to pay attention. So yeah, that was good. Very good, in fact. And one other thing is, yeah, like Edwin said, towards the end, there was that opportunity for you to kind of, step up as a facilitator and bring, me back to the process. So what I was trying to do is, somebody who's not a passive listener is kind of, interjecting and kind of trying to, hijack the conversation. So there you could have maybe, put me in line, but in the sense, not like that, but at least like you could have asked me to stick to the process, and so that's the only place where you could have if you wanted, but very well done. And I'm sure with practice, you're going to, just rock it. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much. I just feel like I want to comment that it did not even occur to me actually to like interject or to be facilitator when you were doing that, Rasha. Like it literally did not even occur to me for some reason. I just was watching it happen, and it was almost like I
yeah
for a second or something, I was just letting it happen. So thank you for this experience, because I'll remember this for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. And sometimes when, conversations get hijacked in a circle, it could get very natural, and it would be like, genuinely, people with genuine feelings trying to connect. And so you would feel kind of, weird interjecting in between and bringing it back to the process. But, that is our job as a facilitator, despite, the discomfort. So yeah, good. All right, thank you. And yeah,
I have one quick question, if it's okay. During that process where you were visually distracting, but not necessarily verbally, when others were speaking, I mean, do you feel it's okay to kind of say pause and, ask you, Rasha, to maybe stay connected to the process and present? And if not, maybe turn off your camera if you need to. Or do you find that sort of distracts from the flow too much?
No, I think that would be good, because as the facilitator, if the group, the dynamics of the group kind of, gets changed, right? I mean, the energy kind of comes down. So I think it would be a good thing to kind of suggest that, we, at least turn off the video if someone's on a call. You may have urgent situations where you need to run around, like someone's at the door, or like, so in these situations, it's good to kind of ask, and it's also good to, so for the maximum part of it, what I try to do is stay present, kind of, even if some distraction is happening, I just try to focus on the rest and like kind of really like, get along with the process. But if it gets too distracting, I think that's okay. Edwin, do you have any?
Yeah, just one point is Jen sort of did it. It's like you were saying the first, I think you're saying it to me, oh, I'm feeling distracted. So you could say, oh, I really wish Rasha would, sort of pay attention here. And, oh, sorry, people are dropping out of the admit. Sorry, I have to let people in. Somehow they dropped out of the call here. I have to put them back in. So.
Oh.
Sorry, were you with Rita? Were you with Rita?
Room 1, yes.
Okay, let me put you in.
Me too,
Sorry. Strange. Okay, room 1 with Rita. And okay, room 1. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So we're sort of the weight room. People drop in here if they fall out of the. So anyway, it's try to stay within the process. Do the training, the explanation within the process if you can. So it's like, oh, okay. So to Faustina, I really wish Rasha would pay attention. And then Faustina says, so you really wish that Rasha would pay attention. So you turn it, you keep it in the process. And I think, Rasha would have gotten the message without saying, well, Rasha, would you do this and that? So that's sort of a, yeah, so, but we're running.
Awesome, yeah. All right. Yeah, Faustine, can we keep the question to the last 5 minutes?
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
Just note down the question so that you don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you make sure you ask. Yeah. All right, so Maria, let's start. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, do you want distractions? Do you want challenges?
Sure.
Okay. Like what level?
Mild distractions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for joining me in the Empathy Circle. I'm glad everybody's here. And I'd like to explain how the process takes place, but first and foremost, what the Empathy Circle means to me. I think I like to be open in the process and allow ourselves to sort of experience rather than cognitively think about what to expect or what's going to happen, but really staying open to the process. And in the process, we're going to have 4 roles. One is going to be the facilitator, which I will be for this circle. I'll be keeping the time, and if I have suggestions, I may bring them up. Otherwise, there's going to be an active speaker. I'm sorry, the speaker. And the speaker will get to talk on whatever is on their mind or about the topic that's brought up to the circle. And as a speaker, a few things to keep in mind. Just to be kind to the listener, we want to try to pause periodically, so it would give them the opportunity to reflect and sort of reflect back to you what you've spoken on. And the second role is the active listener. And the active listener is going to be present in the conversation and reflect back to the speaker what they hear as accurately and the essence of what the conversation was that was presented by the speaker. And the third person is going to be the silent listener. Silent listener may seem like they don't have an active role in the process, but it's very important for them to be present and attentive in the process. Okay. And one other thing, as the active listener, try to reflect back frequently. Don't wait too long so that you sort of forget what was being presented. Okay, and we're going to have 3 minutes for each person. And I'll keep the time, and when we get close to the 3-minute time, I'm going to raise my hand. And to start off,
yeah, I'm not quite clear. Like, did you say that for 3 minutes I speak and then somebody reflects like the entire 3 minutes, or I couldn't quite understand what you were saying?
yes. So as the speaker, you get the 3 minutes to speak what's alive for you, or whatever the topic is. Yeah. And the listener, the active listener, is going to be reflecting for those 3 minutes. And at the end of those 3 minutes, the speaker, when you feel heard, you can allow the listener, the active listener, to know that you feel fully heard, and that would complete the process.
Okay, but if someone's speaking for 3 minutes, then I don't think I'll remember so much information. So
yes,
the entire
So the active the speaker is going to pause in between so that you'll be able to reflect.
All right, all right.
Okay. So I'm going to select the first speaker. And as the process progresses, the active listener is going to be the next speaker, and they'll get to choose their active listener. Okay. Faustina, would you like to start? And in the beginning, I'll be the active listener. Okay.
Maria, like, is there a topic for us to discuss today, or can we talk about?
We're just going to talk about what's alive for us. What's alive for you. So when your turn comes up, you'll get to talk about what's alive in you.
All right.
Okay. Wait, Maria, you're my listener, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What's alive for me now? For the past few days, I've just really been missing my friends and interacting with them, other than chat, like online chatting or calls. We do get calls, but I just wish we could be interacting in different ways.
So I'm hearing that you've been missing your friends in the last few days, and you wish that you could get interact with them in different ways.
Yeah. I love seeing because we were so close throughout high school. We were also each other's classmates throughout, and suddenly, like, some of my friends are in college, some of my friends are doing their own thing, and I'm just so happy for them. We're also happy seeing each other go off into their individual journeys, and some of the things that they're doing or I'm doing, for example, I would love to share with them. And so I'm just with the happiness that comes with me kind of finding my own path in the world. There's kind of that sadness of wanting them to be a part of that experience as well.
So I'm hearing that your classmates were really good friends of yours.
Mm-hmm.
and now they're doing their thing, and you're finding things that you're doing that you're finding joy in, and you wish that you could share that in the joy and the happiness with them.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting. I've been having conversations with people, that I haven't been talking to regularly during the lockdown, and I'm just seeing just growth, so much change, and it's so inspiring to see how we're all becoming our own people. And I tell my friends, like, when we say goodbye, like, yeah, see you soon, and I'm so excited to meet the person you're going to be, because we're always talking about, how we're always learning from each other, and it's just so exciting to see everyone just blossoming. This is the word
So you're
I'd like
seeing,
to use.
so you're seeing a lot of change in yourself and within your friends, and you're looking sort of forward to sharing in that change and watching everybody blossom into who they are now.
And it's just interesting because before I would say that I don't like meeting new people just because it's such a scary experience. But then I just realized, looking at our friend group, we've kind of evolved into so many different people over the last few years. It's been like meeting so many new people as well. We regularly reintroduce ourselves to each other. And so that's something we did recently, like, hi, I'm this person and I like this and this. And so it's just, it's been so interesting for me to meet these new people.
So I'm hearing that you're not really comfortable always meeting new people because it's a scary process, but you're finding that your friends and you going through these changes, it's almost like meeting new people.
Yeah.
And so you regularly reintroduce yourselves to each other, and you find that that's very enjoyable.
Thank you. I feel very heard.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. Edwin, would you mind being the listener?
Yep, listening.
Okay. I am sometimes struggling with, as I continue in the empathy circles, feeling authentic. I find that sometimes trying to be politically correct or nice and not being honest every time makes me feel almost, it takes away from the process of sharing in an empathy circle.
I don't know if you saw it, but Rasha kept putting her finger up. I don't know if she had something to say, but
Thank you, Rasha. Do you think we can hold the questions till later? And when it's your turn to speak, then maybe we could talk on what's alive in you now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm hearing some inhibition about speaking what's really alive for you. You're sort of trying to speak I don't know if I got a little distracted there by all the finger pointing from Rasha, but so it's like you just want to speak what's alive for you, but you're feeling inhibited by speaking politically correct or something like that. Like, yeah, I think that's what I was getting.
Yeah, especially I think when we give feedback, sometimes the tone of the group or the energy kind of guides how we answer something or how we provide feedback, and that I feel sometimes I'm not being very truthful or honest to myself.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of like giving feedback, you feel like you're not really being honest and truthful, really kind of expressing yourself as you would like.
Yeah. And I would like to sort of continue to pursue a way to be, again, not abrasive or offensive, but also being able to be honest, but more gracefully.
Yeah, so you want to be honest in a graceful way, and you don't want to be offensive, but really have that honesty, looking for how to do that.
Yeah. I think just sometimes it's a fine line. I've often worked with animals, and animals, we don't necessarily have the same sort of feelings that we need to be concerned about, that we hurt someone's feelings by saying something. And I think cultural and language differences sometimes force us to be a little bit dishonest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you want to be, there's cultural differences and it makes you be sort of a little dishonest. You just want to really express yourself as you are. With animals, you don't have to worry about it. They just are who they are, and you're really looking for that honesty and authenticity.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, speak to Jen then.
Great. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't quite clear what Maria, if she's referring to the feedback in this group or in groups in general. So I was kind of curious, what is, where is she referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing that you're curious about what Maria is, like what experience she's referring to, in terms of giving honest feedback.
Yeah, I find that with the empathy circle, what's really helpful is you can say whatever you want and you get an empathic reflection with it. And it sort of helps, maintain a sense of connection with, even when you're saying something that might be upsetting.
Yeah, in an empathy circle, it's really about the empathic response, like being able to say whatever you want and getting that empathic response. And it really maintains that, kind of integrity,
Yeah, and I mean, it can be challenging. Like, people will say, "You goddamn fucking asshole! I really hate you," and what's the reflection you get?
You get it right back. The swear words right back at you.
Yeah, so it sounds like you didn't quite want to reflect that, but you hear it back, just reflected back to you, and usually that kind of helps transform kind of criticisms, just kind of being heard. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually reflecting back words like, like if you hear goddamn fucking asshole,
It feels good to hear that. That was my words. I heard it reflected back. That felt so good.
Yeah, so it really maintains that, just reflection and keeping it honest.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times that kind of stuff is just a bunch of judgments, and you just share your judgments, you get your judgments reflected back. It kind of transforms it. You get that anger out or whatever, and then it just kind of gets more real that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just being able to say whatever is on your mind, even if it's judgment, keeps it real, and you get it said right back to you. And yep.
Yeah. And finally, then in return, you got to take it back too. You got to hear what the other person has to say back to you. So that's the other part of it.
Right. You got to hear what the other person, is giving back. So yeah. The other part of it.
And I think we're there at the time. I got to send out the 10-minute notice. So I think we're in the final debrief here. Just letting Russia know. Got 9 minutes before we close.
I think Maria has like around
actually.
Yeah, but
yeah. Jen, do you want to?
I just wanted to ask Edwin if you felt heard.
Oh, I felt very heard. Yes, absolutely heard. Yeah.
All right. So I guess Maria, you've got like 2 minutes lesser like than planned. But is that okay? Or let's do a debrief now.
Sure.
All right. So yeah, how do you think you did?
Okay. Other than again, just living the mild distractions.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate it for the practice, for the sake of experiencing it, because it is a lot to kind of watch the time. And of course, I think I like the format of being the first listener.
Yeah.
But being the first listener, also not being able to kind of have things flow when you're actively participating in it, and having the distractions and keeping the time is like, whoa, wait a minute.
Much. Yeah.
So I do appreciate getting to kind of practice that, and I'm guessing I should have probably responded to the chats, but in all honesty, between those pieces, I figured I wasn't really paying attention to the chats, and I would respond to him if anything at the end. So.
All right. Okay. So yeah, Faustina or like Jen, your comments. Faustina, yeah.
Yeah. I really liked in the beginning that Maria kind of set this energy. I don't know, it was pretty positive for me, which really sets a good tone. I like how you gently told Rasha when she was trying to ask questions, you held the process and you really didn't interrupt the flow. But it was pretty distracting actually, the chats. I understand, I do understand the decision to kind of address them later, because then that addressing them then would probably disrupt the flow, but it actually was pretty distracting.
Okay, good to
Yeah,
know.
but yeah, other than that, I think you did great. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did a good job. I think that let's see, what can I say? You are very clear, like you were clear, you were deliberate in how you delivered, what you were saying. Like you were just very deliberate about it. And so yeah, I appreciated, you being able to just explain the process, and you took your time. I think it felt like you really were taking your time going through the steps in your mind. I could see you doing that. And yeah, so I was with you, just hearing the explanation. Yeah.
Edwin?
Something that struck me was when in terms, there was sort of the explanation, and then when you did the reflection, your reflections for me is like very clear and on the point, and it's sort of like, oh, this is how it works with these clear reflections. And so, I mean, if I was like a new person, I mean, even that I'm not, it's like I just feel like it's somehow the reflective part just kind of grounded me, and it was just something, I don't know, it was just something so clear about it. Like, wow, it's really clear. And it almost, it's like that, your reflections almost do the description of the whole thing by modeling it. It's like, I think like last time we were in the same group, I'm not sure. And it was like those things kind of broke up a little at the beginning, but it was like it was the same, my same feeling then was your reflections were so clear. Yeah. And then it was and also the part of just keeping Rasha in line, like just hold off, yeah, that was really clear too. That was,
yeah. So yeah,
That was fun. Thank you, Rasha. That was very fun.
Similar comments from me as well, like well done. I think, yeah, yeah, you covered everything. I think almost everything for the introduction, everything went well. I also felt that, while reflecting, in almost all the circles, like you're very clear with reflections. That's something that stood out, yes. And yeah, I mean, I also appreciate how you gave time. I don't know whether you noticed it, but even when there was like, slightly a kind of a discussion happening between Edwin and Jen, when Jen is actually supposed to reflect, she was like commenting and, just having a slight, but then you gave it space to kind of, for the process to just fall back into place, right? I don't know whether you noticed it and you did it on purpose, or whether, whether you did not want to intervene. But sometimes while we're having a circle, it's good to kind of, take a little bit of time, just see whether the process will fall back in place, and people, because sometimes maybe someone, it's a genuine by reflex, they probably make a comment, and then they realize, oh shit, oh, I should be following the process. So they just be a little patient there and give them time to kind of, just adjust to it. But if something keeps getting repeated, right? If there is something that's keeping on getting repeated, that's when you really need to, step in. And, if one circle is done, in the second circle, the same things stand out, then maybe you will have to interject. And I appreciate how you, told me very clearly. So I think you have that command, and that confidence, right? So you kind of very clearly told me, you can ask your questions when your, chance comes. So yeah. Well done, all three of you. We have 2 minutes, I guess. So I'm just glad that, we managed to have, everybody's turns, we got enough time for that. So debrief, we just have around 2 minutes. Any final things that you want to say?
I had a aha moment. I think if I'm ever in a circle and I know that I'm going to have my Russia, your character, and I'm the active listener, I'm going to select you first.
Okay. Yes. Oh God, all right. Yes.
I just really found it interesting that so much of these situations aren't really specific to an empathy circle. And yet, since I was considering it that our goal also is to preserve the process, it actually made me realize that we can do that in another setting, because it's kind of hard as a facilitator. Yeah, there is that internal debate of, do I interrupt the thought process of the speaker to, for the greater good of the group, to protect this process. But I think that was such an interesting point by Edwin. You can incorporate it. You can be a bit more subtle about it, how you do it. Because the last time, from our last session, there was also a bit of difficulty. I think Priyanka was our trainer, and she was also giving us small situations. And my panic came from, really, do I want to disrupt the flow? Because I think my priority was making sure that the speaker was still being heard. That's kind of how I would address the distraction, is as a facilitator. So if I am to interrupt them to address the disruption, I think I would do it really when they finish a thought. I would really find that space to kind of interject. So I think that's just what I realized, and it applies for so many other settings. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Just want to say before we wind up that any other questions, comments, feedback, you can give it in the form, that Edwin will be sending out later. Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
Hey, Lizzie, are you up for doing the next section, just a debrief?
Sure.
Okay, it's all yours when you're ready.
For what period of time, Edwin?
What's that?
For what period of time?
Oh, we have about 20 minutes, I think so. About a minute each, maybe. That was our questions. Any learnings?
So everybody, you will have all had quite intense experiences in some ways and learned what to do and what not to do. But this is a time to share with the group just one thing, something that you've really seen, or that's made a difference to you in some way, something that matters to you. And we hit 20 minutes, sort of think about a minute, but if it goes a bit longer, that's fine. Don't be too worried. It's time for you to fully express what you want to say. So I would suggest that somebody start, anyone who'd like to, and that they then pass it on. And when it's passed to you, if you don't feel ready to speak yet, just say, oh, pass, I'm not ready yet. Yep. And they can choose somebody else. Yeah.
busy, may I go first? Because I have to leave. I have another session coming up. So I think, the learning has been immense in this entire, in the work that we did in the group, because you had to deal with what is unexpected, because you know what an empathy circle is. But if people are just trying to act the devil, how do you work with it? So that was a big learning from the group. Thank you.
And Jaya, will you pass it on? But I just would like to ask the people who aren't speaking to mute themselves.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So I would like to pass it on to Payal.
Hi everyone, thanks Jaya. So I had a interesting time looking at dealing with the challenges. I became aware of how when I saw what I called a naughty participant, how my attention went to bring that participant in. It also helped me to look at my focus and my presence. Earlier I was just while listening, but this allowed me to focus also by physically seeing what's happening in terms of the video. And I was aware that as a facilitator, I am not just facilitating, but also holding the empathy role or the empathy cap in the facilitation process. So that was like a double whammy for me. Quite enjoyed this process. Do I nominate the next person?
That'd be lovely. Yeah.
All right. So Larry, where are you?
Thank you all. I really, really enjoyed this experience. And I especially thank our facilitator, who was really, really disruptive and did a great job of being disruptive. I appreciate that challenge, noticing that, holding empathy is itself like a world unto itself that invites everyone to come inside. And then when your facilitator is so skilled at being distracted, it's quite a challenge. Thank you all.
Jen, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, what an interesting group. I felt like, yeah, I am on my learning edge, like I see it and I feel it, and I'm not even sure if I can name it yet. But definitely, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the experience. And I do know that I go through a wide spectrum of feelings, like from complete nervousness to, really feeling at ease to just, wait, what's going on? With all the distractions that were happening. And yeah, I just think that this is such a good process and I'm really grateful for it. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I want to be able to name exactly what learning I'm having right now, but it's, I don't feel I'm ready to do that yet, so hopefully I can report on that next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Sally, would you like to speak?
I had a lot of fun with this, maybe too much fun. And I've never experienced this aspect of the learning process of empathy circles, but I certainly made the mistakes over time. But it was a very important learning experience, and I gained a lot from it, and am appreciative of the group for working with me with everything that went wrong.
Thank you, Sally. Mona.
Thank you. I really want to thank Rita because it was a very, very helpful process. And I gained two aspects. Like first one, it was an eye-opening for my role as facilitator. Like when I'm part of the circle, it's okay. I'm just sitting there talking or listening, but it's been challenging to be this facilitator who have a lot of things to take care of, the time, the people, the quiet, the flow. So it was like an eye-opening of, no, I need to concentrate of another thing. And the other thing is for my life, for myself, as usual, every time I am having an empathy circle, I learn something new. Is I have an option to answer the people who disturb my energy or my flow of my life in a very quiet, positive way, that at the end I will not be this, because in the beginning my teeth start to hurting me so much from the anxiety, but I then start to listen to other facilitators answering those challenge. And when it was my turn, I found myself answer those challenging in a really quiet way, a really positive way that make me not having an anxiety to stop that person from disruption. And in the same way, everything went well. So I'm really waiting to apply that into my life when someone disrupt me, to see if I can do that in real life and just answer that person with quite optimistic way. So I'm really appreciated the circle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Faustina.
This was like always a very exciting session for me. Um, yeah, I think one takeaway from today really is to just for me to trust the process. And yeah, because empathy, the empathic process is just so powerful actually, in that I don't have to, I think I worry too much about some things. And when I remember that there is this process that we're following, that this space that we're trying to hold, I think it gives you more confidence as a facilitator to um try to uphold that process. And I think it's interesting today just seeing all the distinct choices my group mates made. It encourages me that we all can carry this process differently, and that we can make different choices as facilitators. But if we hold this impulse within us, then it's a really it's a guide that we have, and I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Faustina. Russia.
Oh yeah, it was a very interesting session. Yeah, I could see how the distractions I was trying to like bring in was affecting the the participants, and and it took me back to the first time that I had distractions. It was a very distressing day or experience for me, and I remember one of my takeaways that day. I remember was that I should figure out how not to carry the negative energy that I got from here onto the rest of my day, because I tend to do that sometimes. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience, and I loved how positively everybody took, like, despite the distractions, everyone kind of took it like in the right stride, and they were all like, oh, we're going to learn from this. That's the attitude I got, because I wasn't like that the first time, because I was like, oh my god, the things just didn't go right, and now, like, I was in that mode. So I'm glad, I'm really glad to see how you all like so positively took it, and yeah, going forward. Thank you.
You're on mute, Lizzie.
You're on mute, Lizzie.
Rita, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought my group was really lovely, and everyone really role modeled the process so calmly for each other, really, and the group like held together so calmly when I was doing a lot of distracting. So like yeah, and in terms of like facilitation, yeah, just the calmness and the presence and really, yeah, really held the process, and the interjections were done in a timely manner. They weren't like rushed. It wasn't like cutting off, you know, someone. It was really like each facilitator really chose when to place, when and where and how to like place those interjections in a kind way. So even from like level 1 to level 5 challenge, we even had a daring level 5 challenge. So it was, yeah, close to that. And I just wanted to acknowledge, you know, that, you know, the moving from like a participant in an empathy circle to a facilitator is not, you know, level 1 to level 2. It's like moving, it sometimes feels like moving from level 1 to level 10, you know. So it certainly felt like that for me. I was like, yeah, I had this assumption that it's just like, oh, just going to the next level, it's fine, you know. And it's like, it just takes time and practice to get used to coordinating these things and still being present. And so the more often that you do facilitate them, the easier it gets and the less like energy it takes to kind of like refocus. So that time will come. Yeah.
Thanks, Rita. And Pale.
I already went second.
I think Maria hasn't gone.
Oh, sorry, Pale. Yeah, there's a few people that haven't gone. I didn't realize that Pale had had a turn. Yeah, Maria.
For me, I think I always ultimately come back to this is with all of the learning and trying to sort of coordinate the process and manage the facilitation and all the pieces and the details that come into the process, staying, I think, connected with truly being empathetic listener to the speaker. And when in doubt, just really keeping it simple and reflecting back to the person what I'm hearing to stay connected to that process. I think all of the challenges and experiences that I'm getting through these sessions are definitely an opportunity for me to grow. But I think for me, just always reminding myself and learning every time there's sort of triggers or challenges that come up, that staying rooted, being open to the empathetic process, and ultimately being present as I possibly can to the speaker, then I know that everything in the end will work out.
Thank you, Maria. And Kang.
I'm very grateful for what everyone has said, to my group mates and to Rita. And I think I'm taking away 3 things today. One is that to make very clear requests. The second is to be grateful for whatever happens in the group, even when it's a distraction. If you are really grateful for the experience, it comes through. It helps calm the other person down. And then the last part is just, I'm just grateful for the rest of the people in the circle. They were helping me to keep the process. You know, I felt so supported by other people trying to inform the disruptor that you shouldn't do it. So I've been very glad.
Thank you. Anu.
Yeah, thanks, Lizzie, and thank you to you again for being the leader, and Jaya and Sally, who were a part of my circle. I learned so much from each one of you. I think what I'm taking away from today's experience is my growth as a facilitator in 2 aspects. One would be the importance of context. As a facilitator, how do I set a right context, right environment that would include safety, inclusion, giving some right guidelines so that the group can take it from there. And also, one is context and the other one is conditions. How do I manage different conditions as and when they change in my group? Be it disruption, be it listeners not sticking to the listener's role or speakers going on a spin. Anything might emerge as a condition. So how do we then, as a group, we learn from that experience and still able to give and receive each other empathy? So I think that's my my learning today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think my main learning was that it harks back to what Rita was saying, talking about the brain and trauma, and realizing that when the group is held in a really calm way and we just stick to the process, and when the host does gently bring people back to the process in their own way, in their own timing, then I calm down. And I self-soothe, I self-regulate, I calm down. And that's been my experience of empathy circles over the last year. Very, very calming. So today, playing with being naughty, the naughtiness, actually made us all start to feel unsafe. And it was the opposite of what an empathy circle would normally do. So for me, it was just a great reminder of the value of just gently sticking to the process and how calming that is, how strengthening that is for us all. Yeah. Edwin, did you want to say anything now?
Yeah, my learning was the empathic space. I think it's building on what you're saying, that there is this empathic space that I sense sort of around me. And it's like how to kind of hold that space and sort of, spread it out. There's conflicts come, but, hear the conflicts, be present with the conflicts and sort of transform, and also to bring out what's going on for me. And it's just that's holding that that sort of warm empathic space in the middle of, maybe it's a little bit metaphorically like a hurricane, right? We're in this eye of the hurricane and it's swirling around and destroying the land and tearing things up all around us. And can we kind of spread the center, to kind of transform the hurricane that's around us? And this is just one, yeah. So it's a lot of learnings on how to do that from each of the participants in our circle. So thank you.
So I hand it back to you, Edwin, because we've done our
going over to
closing
Russia.
is Russia. Yeah, Russia.
Yeah, what a lovely experience. I mean, what a lovely learning experience. So while we close, before we close, like, any of the trainers have any final comments to make?
I'm just going to post in the chat the link to the challenges document, but Edwin will also send it around in the email.
Thank you, Rita. All right, if there's no other comments, I just want to say, like, it's inspiring. Today, that's what I'm going to take away from the session. It was very inspiring to see how much everybody grows, right, each session, and how much of support everybody has, like, for each other. And so that's so inspiring. So for next week, we'll be doing the challenges again. This time what we'll do is we won't be doing the introduction bit where we introduce what an empathy circle is. So that time as well will go into your facilitation practice. So that will give you, a lot more time to experience challenges and kind of, overcome it, and then, play around with facilitation. So yeah, so that's something you can look forward to next week. So again, like every week, Edwin will be sending out an email with your assignments, right? There will be a feedback survey. So whatever you couldn't cover today, like during in your breakout rooms over here, any questions, any comments, any feedback, like feel free to put it in the survey. The link will also be posted in the chat. Yeah, there it is. And you'll be paired with new empathy buddies, so you can schedule calls with them and get to know them better, and even share your experience so far with them. Also, do try to facilitate an empathy circle if you can, with family, with friends, with whoever, and then gain an experience of it right outside of this circle. And before we wind up, so how about you all post one value or a need that was met, or or whatever you're feeling right now in one word in the chat, like we do every week, right? And for me, it's inspired. Yeah. So once we have that, oh, I see energized, hopeful, grateful, joy, satisfied, naughty joy, very calm, grateful, peace, creativity, humbled, lovely. So lovely. We have some lovely values there. Warmed. All right. So with that, I guess we can wind up with the jazz hands, all of you.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you all next week. Have a great week. Yeah. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Edwin, everyone
Thanks,
in the
Anu.
team.
Thank you.
Kayal, Maria,
Bye-bye.
Kang,
Bye.
Larry,
Thank you.
Mona, Sally, Jen,
Bye-bye.
Faustina, Larry.